Hey, man.
What's going on?
Have you ever heard of the internet?
Are you going to tell me about how Al Gore invented it? Are we going to talk about Al Gore?
Al Gore invented the internet. No, he did not. He did not
You know,
invent
that's a
the
rumor
internet.
that he started.
Yeah, he started that rumor. He figured if I lie about coming up with the internet, then people will vote for me.
I've heard of the internet.
Yes. Yeah. Have you?
Yeah.
Sweet. Tell me about it.
So it's this really horrible place that exists.
Yeah.
That you can search anything, and that's a good and a bad thing. The word anything there is like you can search anything. Yeah. And also you can search anything. You know, it's like a two. Yeah. So, founded in 92.
I like where you're going with this. You should just give it a wing.
Bill Gates was like, hey guys, I founded, here's the internet. And people were like, oh, he's got sweet baby rays in his videos. That's weird, you know? And then another company was called Internet, and they were suing him. They're like, you can't call yourself the Internet. I don't know anything about the internet.
You can't call yourself the internet.
We're internet. That's what Facebook's doing. Or sorry, Meta is doing. Have you seen that whole debacle thing?
Dude,
like,
that's such a mess.
Like another company is called Meta, and they sued them, and they were like, "Hey," and then Meta was like, "I mean, we have more money than you."
I mean, yeah, we're bigger than you, so it's fine.
If they wanted to go by Jaron, I would be screwed. I'd be like, I guess I'm changing my name. You're right. Hi, this is the phone. Hello, Mr. Phone.
ChoosingGumballs.com is cheap.
The fiber cable.
Hey, Mr. Phone, you want to play RuneScape again?
Things I learned last night. When did the internet start?
We're going to do two things today. We're going to hit the history of the internet. Where did it come from? And where did it go? And then we're going to do another thing really fast of how the heck does it work? Okay. That's the more interesting part, if you ask me. So we're going to hit the internet history very fast. Ask me.
What's the most interesting part about all this?
It's the history of the internet.
Let's jump to that part.
Real quick. Here's the history. In 1969, a government organization known as ARPA was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could talk to each other really fast? And all of our computers could be connected.
Cool. I heard that idea. Was that what you're thinking? And they're like, no.
They're like, why did we hire this guy?
He's like, yeah, sorry.
They said, can you believe the American public voted this guy to be the president?
And you're like, hold it, we didn't understand a word you just said.
So the government got together with a couple universities, like the University of California, Los Angeles, and Stanford
Ozark
Research
Technical Community College.
And said, hey, we need you to come up with a way for our computers to communicate with each other, despite the fact that they're not in the same room.
Place. Yeah.
And typically how that would happen, like a lot of universities already had this in place where they just ran wires to all their computers or
but it's like states away.
Yeah, they want,
How do they tell them? They send them a letter?
Yeah, they sent them an email and they said, I can't open this.
They sent them a letter.
They were like, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pay you a lot of money to
figure out how to make this happen.
Yeah, and so they did. They called it the ARPANET, which is the
we should start
grandfather.
Calling it the ARPANET.
Yeah. The grandfather of the internet was the ARPANET. Basically, all it did was send emails and then share files because that's all they needed it to do. It was just for government intelligence, basically. It really more for security.
It's because, I mean, up until then, too, police departments didn't even share information with each other. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah, so...
and this is, I always talk about it, but it's that time when you could commit a crime in one county and get to another county, and the police there would have no idea that you committed that crime.
And it was actually relatively smart the way they thought of it, because they said, hey, let's just use all the phone lines that are already laid down, come up with a way to use these phone lines to hijack the signal and use that to send data. So it was pretty clever. So it was cheaper than having to just lay a bunch of new lines down. Yeah. And we'll explain how that works in a second. But over time, they just kept running into different roadblocks where the basic idea of it initially was every computer had an address, and then every computer had an address book. And
when you wanted to send things to an address book,
they would look up in their address book the address of the computer that they wanted to send something to, and then they would send that address.
Yeah, in the address book.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if the address changed, then they would have to tell everybody, hey, I get on the phone, hey, I changed my address. So change it in your address book.
You know what I got yesterday? I got a text from a friend of mine who, and don't do this, got a new phone number.
Yeah.
And just sent a mass text to all of his contacts. And it put us in a little group.
Oh, gosh.
And he said, whatever you do, don't respond to this text. That's what it opened with. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I read the rest. He's like, I got a new phone number. Here it is. And it's like, why would you put us all in this group?
The first thing I would have done is respond to that text.
I thought about it.
The first thing I would have done.
I thought about it.
Like 100%. 100%.
He's my old neighbor. I'm not as close with him as I used to be.
Yeah, that's funny though. I would have 100%. Anyways,
I would have responded and been like, "Yeah, I won't."
Yeah, I won't. Got it. Nobody say a word.
Nobody say.
Nobody say a word. They kind of incrementally were making it better and work better, right? As technology
it's primitive. You got to figure that kind of stuff out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then in '89, the government was pretty much just like, "Hey, are we still spending money on this?"
Everyone was like, "Oh, ARPANET's still a thing."
Well, they pretty much were just like, "This has been doing what we need it to do since '71," and they were like, "We've been throwing a bunch of money at Stanford to make it better."
For like 18 more years.
Yeah,
okay.
And they were like, let's stop. And so they were just like, okay. And so then there was no one to maintain it. And so the government was like, well, we got to hand this over to somebody. And so the government just gave it away. And so they picked this, they gave the internet away.
They were like, all right.
So they picked this organization that was...
because they didn't want to spend money on it anymore?
Yeah, they were just like, we've been spending a lot of money on this. We should stop. And so they gave it away to this... private company.
It took you that long? Okay. You just a private company. Like, dude, that was, bro, it seemed like, did you just have like real dial-up internet right there for a second?
Yeah, I was waiting for the connection. I was buffering. So this private company takes it over. And
what private company is it?
Delphi. They become the first.
Delphi?
Yeah, Delphi. Or Delphi, I'm not sure. DELPHI. Delphi. Okay. And at that point, it's pretty primitive until 91 when a group at CERN said, hey, we've been using this since ARPANET to transfer data back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
And they said, but it's a pain because there's no easy way to navigate it. You have to have all these addresses and look up the books, and it's just a pain. And so they said they took a code that had been around forever called hypertext, which basically is the ability to link between things. And they implemented that into the internet, which birthed HTML, which is what runs most of the web pages on the internet nowadays. So that was the birth of a new era of the internet where now you don't have to. Yeah, now you don't have to like know all the protocols and the addresses when you're getting online. You can just get on and browse and find things much similar to how we do it today. And so then it opened this almost commercial door of, oh, hey, like real people will use this.
That was in 91?
Yeah. And so it was like, now it was like, oh, hey, real people will use this. And it's not just going to be a like...
real people as opposed to
researchers at Stanford.
As opposed to those NPCs at Stanford.
As opposed to all those nerds at Stanford.
Yeah.
So then a bunch of companies started buying up
space,
buying up cables to people's houses and becoming becoming the ISP, so the internet service provider.
Okay.
And so
are they even necessary anymore?
Yes.
No, I don't believe it.
Okay.
I just want to know that I can kick AT&T in the teeth.
Yeah, you can't.
One day they won't be necessary anymore. I do believe we're moving toward it being a public utility. We'll talk about that later, though.
I don't know. The government was pretty giddy to get it off their balance sheet.
Pretty giddy?
Yeah, they were like, oh, sweet, we can stop paying for this? That means we can buy more tanks. So they...
I also think every American should have a tank.
Public access tanks.
When they were talking about stimulus packages, I didn't hear enough about people getting tanks.
Yeah, we could all use a tank or two.
I kept saying the economy's tanked. And I said, I sure would like to be.
Why can't I be
I'd
tanked?
like to be tanked by the government.
Why do they get a tank for this economy guy?
Tank
not me.
Tank me. We tank everybody these days. We tank God,
Thank you, God. Thank the Lord.
Yeah. I love that you made my joke twice.
So anyway, the internet became easy to navigate.
So they got ISPs.
ISPs were basically
internet service providers.
Yeah, they said, hey, you can pay us a little bit of the month and we can connect you to the internet.
Yeah.
And
they're
then
like holding the cord outside your house. Like, we'll plug it in.
Yeah, we want to plug it in. You want us to plug it in. And so they got people to start paying their monthly subscriptions. And then all of a sudden, all these new companies started coming in, and you had the .com boom and bust, because every company out there was like, oh, hey, I can sell shoes and gumballs online. And they would go find all these people.
Shoesandgumballs.com.
And this is real. And the .com,
you have to look it up.
During the .com boom.
We can't say a domain and then you just be like, yeah, it's probably real.
It doesn't matter if it's real now. Its site can't be reached.
Well, put it on the list. You have to support us on Patreon. You have to support us only for the fact that we own like 12 domains now.
Yeah, it's getting expensive.
It's yeah. We spend about $600 a year on useless domains.
Shoesandgumballs.com is cheap.
$1.99 for 2 years, right?
Less.
99 cents?
Less.
13 cents.
Less.
A penny? We have to do it. Shoesandgumballs.com. Buy right now. Let's pause this whole thing. Buy shoesandgumballs.com.
Let me make sure I'm on our account and not a client account real quick.
Buy it on a client's account. They're not going to notice. You're going to notice a penny upcharge. Buy it on someone else. Put it on your card to see if your wife notices. Your wife doesn't.
I noticed a penny charge.
Your wife doesn't do the finances like that. Your guys' trash service got turned off. All right. Your wife's not going to notice a penny upcharge. Put it on mine. You think I care? When was the last time I checked my bank account? I can't remember. I don't even know my bank's website. BankofAmericaGumballs.com. I don't know. I don't know how to get there. I don't know how to get to it. Put it on mine. Who cares? It's a penny. I'll give you a penny right now.
Oh my gosh. You know what I still have in my cart?
What's that?
Whale bones for sale.
Yeah. Is it the number 4? Whale bones number 4 sale?
No, it's whale bones.
Get it out of there. You don't need that.
It's whale bones 4, the word 4 sale.
Yeah. No, I get it how it works. I'm just saying we want the one with the number 4 in it.
Oh gosh.
Is it also a penny?
No.
Okay.
No. Okay.
Whale bones for sale is more expensive than shoe balls.
Shoes and gumballs.
Shoes and shoe balls.
So no, here's the thing. In that era,
everybody
was going
domains,
and getting
right.
everybody was going and getting $1 million investments to start these internet companies.
Leave all that in, by the way. That's fine.
To sell stupid things on the internet. That's like, and it was a very niche.
Investments?
Yeah, people were going and getting $1 million investors to start this website that was going to sell something dumb on the internet that no one's going to buy on the internet because it was the internet boom. Everyone's like, oh, you can't lose money on the internet. Just like everyone's like, you can't lose money with Bitcoin or NFTs or GameStop stock. It was the same scenario. They said,
you just got to hodl.
What did you just say?
You got to hodl. HODL. How the Bitcoin people say hold.
Oh.
They do the HODL. They're dumb.
Okay, great.
I'm one of them.
Never heard. I'm one of them. So they.
So there was the domain boom, right? So people are getting $1 million investments.
.com boom. They're getting $1 million investments to start stupid websites.
To buy things like.
And then Y2K hit. And basically everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be 2000. And for the first time ever, instead of it being 1, that the first number of the year, it's going to be a 2. And the computers, they're not going to know how to deal with that. That was their concern. Did you know that?
I did know about Y2K. Yeah, thank you for that. Really enjoyed
the computers are going to be able to figure out the 2.
Really enjoyed probably the most common knowledge thing in the world. You going.
So then the .com bubble crashed. It burst.
Have you or a loved one been diagnosed with too many advertisements during the TILLN podcast? Have we got good news for you? Our patrons enjoy ad-free experience, and they get early access to content, behind-the-scenes stuff, exclusive merchandise, and access to a private Discord channel where we all are in it, our producers and the hosts. So if you'd like to be a patron today and solve that problem, why don't you text TILLN to 66866. So
all these companies went out of business.
Yeah.
And then a couple rose from the ashes. Some of the big ones, big noteworthy ones, were GeoCities. Do you know GeoCities?
No.
GeoCities is the original social media site. So this is the first time ever that the internet went from being creators on the backside and users on the other side. Now the users had the opportunity to create for the first time.
Got it.
And so they actually...
What year was this?
I think 2001.
Yeah.
And so what it allowed people to do was create basically their own website right on the internet.
Yeah.
And so it was a precursor to social media. A few million people were members. Eventually, they were replaced by Zynga and then MySpace, and now the kings of the afterworld, Facebook.
The afterworld. What? You know, Zynga, MySpace, and then the Lord of Termination of the Human Society, Facebook. You know.
So that's a really brief, very fast history of the internet.
Okay.
From
conception,
from government to today, and the government is watching and saying we should have never let that go.
Do you think they feel that way?
No, they don't care because
great.
they're saving a lot of money. So now we're going to talk about how the internet works.
Okay.
And this is what I'm actually more interested in.
I know. This whole beginning of this whole episode, you're like, yeah, whatever.
Let's just get this.
I've been like trying to make some jokes, and you're like, okay.
I'm just like, let's get through this part so I can get to the part I want to talk about.
Yeah. How does it work?
All right. So basically, when you get on your computer. All right. So what happens?
Did you tell my impatience with that joke?
I could.
Did you see my hands turn white? Like I was like, I'm gonna punch this person in the mouth.
Yeah, this is you. That's been you all day.
As soon as I figure out how my hands work.
As soon as I figure out how to unlink my hands. All right. So the internet. Here's what happens with the internet.
Okay. You go to shoesandgumballs.com.
Yeah, let's play with.
Type it in.
Let's say you're uploading an image to shoesandgumballs.com. Let's say you're trying to list a gumball for sale.
Yeah.
On shoesandgumball.com.
Got a picture of a single gumball. $1,300.
Take that photo, 13 megapixels. Pop that into your CD drive.
Did you ever put teeth marks in your gumball like that?
Yeah. 100%. When's the last time you ate a gumball? I honestly I think the last time I ate a gumball was in a Blockbuster.
Oh. I don't like that. Probably around Y2K. When I thought the world was going to end, and I was just like, give me all the gumballs.
Yeah, the computers can't figure out the twos, and I can't figure out how to chew.
Twos and chews, baby.
So you're uploading a picture of a gumball. A picture of a gumball. What's going to happen is your computer is going to take that file, and they're going to split it up into all these little packets, is what they call them.
Okay.
And the packets are a collection of information from that image. So in your image, you have all what's called bytes, and bytes are just a bunch of bits. really confusing that we said, hey,
bytes and bits.
If we have a bunch of bits, they're bytes.
Which is like what that's what an internet cafe was called, is bytes and bits. It's just like you show up and you got free Wi-Fi and bytes and
so this breaks down to bits. Bits are your binary code.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones and zeros. Originally in computing, those ones and zeros were just switches. So ones was on, zeros were off, which is where we get the power symbol, 1 and a 0. That's where the power symbol comes from. But
again,
those
looked at me like he was just like, "Did you know that?"
I didn't think you were going to know that. I genuinely didn't think you were going to know that. So you're smarter than I thought, I guess.
Okay.
And then those ones and zeros are essentially just little on-off switches to say, hey, this is that, this is on, this is off. You put enough of those together, you can string that in to make this complex set of information. And so what you're doing when you're uploading something to the internet is it's breaking everything down back into those bits and then sending them away. And so back in the old days on DSL or broadband, they were sending them in waves. And so the waves were going through your phone lines or your cable lines as the technology advanced, and they were waves of data. And so what they said is a certain frequency is your on, your 1,
Interesting.
and a certain frequency is your off, your 0. And so there would be a receiver at the other end that would receive that on the other end of the cable and say, oh, we've got all these ones and zeros. They would compile that packet back together and then take all those packets together to give you the image and put it up in the internet. And so then when you're downloading something, it's the same process in reverse.
Okay. Same waves coming back.
Yeah, same waves coming back, but it's just going in reverse. But what's interesting about it is for the longest time we used phone lines, but that was why when you picked up the phone line, you heard that screeching. That was the waves going through the phone line, was that frequency. So that was the sound of data and whatever images were going through the internet at the time that you're hearing. Yeah,
we can put it in without my mouth.
We shouldn't
got
put it
that
in.
sound.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
we should not.
But
put
just
it
like
in.
a low.
Don't put it in.
Put it in the whole
Don't
episode. Put it just subtly behind the whole thing.
But yeah, that dial-up tone was the same every time because it was connecting. So it was sending the same information every time. But then after you got on, it was always different because you're looking or browsing different parts of the web, sending different data and receiving different data. And so
what's your earliest memory of the internet?
Oh man, probably something with like nick.com, like playing games on nick.com. What about you?
My earliest memory of the internet is Coca-Cola on the inside of the bottle caps used to have little codes that you would go to, I think it was CokeRewards.com and type in the codes. Now, my mom, still to this day, drinks an unhealthy amount of Diet Coke.
Okay.
Just an insane amount of Diet Coke. So she would just save all these. And I mean, like, there'd be 5 or 6 a day. Well, every few weeks, she would be like, hey, if you sit down and put all those in there, if we have enough of these, we can get an RV. It's honestly one of the prizes. It was like, it was a lot of points or whatever. But you would go, I think we got like a Coca-Cola towel. I think I got a backpack from it once.
Interesting.
CokeRewards.com
is available, penny a month.
Coke Rewards?
Yeah, it's actually
or Coke Awards.
Coke Rewards. It's Coke-Rewards is available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Coke Rewards is taken.
By who?
Pepsi.
Who do you think owns it?
And so the way this network works...
Do we have footage of him just resetting like that? Did you see that where he's like...
This is why all
why
all the conspiracy
theorists... Did you
theorists,
see all the ones and zeros just go through him real quick? What the heck was that?
That's why all the conspiracy theorists think it's a fake laugh because I'm able to just... because it is fake.
Yeah. So sounds like the Hunger Games little like...
So when you're on your computer, you have the cable that goes out. The cable goes out under the ground or something.
So wherever it goes.
Into a larger cable in like a highway that goes across to your local ISP's server building.
Yeah.
Which, if you've ever been in pretty much every city, that giant AT&T building that's like tan and has
doesn't
no
have
windows. Yeah,
That's your
that's
server.
that building. And so they have a lot of phone
So
stuff
if someone
in there
attacked
usually.
that building.
Yeah, then you would your area. Anybody with AT&T would have a tough time getting the internet. They would still be able to because it would just route them out to the next city over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it's not set up to where everybody always goes to that local one. So traffic gets sent in the quickest route it can go. And so most of the time, like we're in Kansas City, it's going to go to that Kansas City one. But sometimes if Kansas City's crowded, it might send us to St. Louis or Springfield or Chicago or just somewhere nearby because it's like, oh, you'll get there faster. Traffic's really bad right there, right now. And so
same thing with on my way home the other day. Road was backed up. Took me all the way out of St. Louis and around.
It's in St. Louis will be way faster.
Yeah, it's like Waze. You know, it's an incredible technology.
Waze was like, it'll be faster to just go to St. Louis.
It took me 8 hours to get home. But
yeah, you want to go home? Yeah, here's St. Louis.
Well,
instead.
to be fair, 2 of those was me in line at St. Louis Bread Co. It's Panera, but it feels different.
It feels better. So, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you hit that, and then what happens there is this is kind of like you don't remember this, but
you remember when I was a kid? Do you remember that time that I was a kid and mom
we
came home and yeah. You remember that?
No, do you remember back when phone lines had an actual person that was switching them?
Yeah.
And being like, yeah, hello, you've reached the phone. Who would you like to talk to?
Hi, this is the phone. Hello, Mr. Phone. Hi, Domino's. It's me. Okay, but I kind of wish we had that middle person still, because let's say you're calling your ex too much, right? And so you call, and that person's like, hello, it's me, the phone. And you're like, I would like to get connected to Marissa, right? This is me. This is not yours. This is me. And I was trying to think of a different name, and then it came out, and I was like, oh, shoot, that's one of yours.
Oh, shoot, pick one.
Anyway, pick the wrong one. So I was like, hey, let me get in touch with Natalie or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, bro,
it's over, man.
it's 2:30 in the morning. I'm not gonna call her again.
Yeah, we're not doing this right now.
Now, does the phone?
Phone, please, phone.
No, Mr. Phone, please.
No, phone. You don't understand.
Please. No,
phone, we're meant to be together. Phone.
It's not over, Mr. Phone. It's not over,
Mr. Phone.
Mr. Phone. And he's like, hey, I think it's over, man. And it's like, Mr. Phone, listen, just connect us. I swear, if she hears my voice. Now, did Mr. Phone then have to call the other person and be like, you have a call?
This is Mr. Phone.
Hi, Mr. Phone speaking. He's calling again.
You got that guy again.
Do you want me to just pretend you're not there? Dude, that's what he does too. You're like, come on, Mr. Phone, just connect us. He's like, okay.
Okay.
You're like, I know that's your lips.
Nope, I've been working on it for years. I'm pretty good at it. I mean, no, it's the actual phone.
No, she's not there, man.
She's not there. It's been ringing. Let it keep going. I wanted to hit her answering machine.
No one is available to take your call. Beep. You're like, Mr. Phone, I know that was you. And he's like, listen, dude.
20 years later, he's like, you run into her and you're like, you never answered any of my calls. You never answered any of my calls.
I called you every day for a year.
I called you every day for a year.
It's still not over, right? Now, the plot twist is that she has actually fallen in love with Mr. Phone. Now, when you meet her and you're like, hey, she's like, yeah, it's Mrs. Phone now. You're like, what?
Oh my gosh.
I'm really sorry that anybody listens to this. I'm sorry that we're doing this. I wish we could stop. I sure wish we could.
So here's what happens. So you hit that.
You used to have a switcher.
Yeah, you hit your ISP's big old box.
Yeah.
In your city, and there used to be a physical person. called Mr. Phone. Now there's a physical person called Mr. Internet, and they take the Ethernet cables and they plug them into wherever they're supposed to go.
Yeah. He sees your whole search history too.
Yeah, he's like, oh,
it's worse.
Oh. he sees you searching Natalie, and he's like, "How are we going to take you somewhere else?"
Here we go again. Showing results for Natalia. Oh no, Natalie.
No.
Showing results for Ratatouille. Oh, Natalie. Showing results for National Anthem. No. I wish Google would help us like that. It would have helped me a lot with my breakup. Oh man.
So what it does is it figures out where you're trying to connect to, and then it sends you there. And so basically...
Sends you there.
Yeah, so basically the way to think about it is when you're leaving your house, you're getting on at a local train station, and then when you get to the big box that says AT&T in the middle of the city, you're at Union Station, and then Union Station sends you off to wherever you need to go.
Yeah.
And so if you're sending data to a specific person, what it's going to do is you're going to get to the Union Station at that city. It's going to go backwards back to their house. If you're trying to connect to a website, so if you're uploading to shoesandgumballs.com, you're going to go to shoesandgumballs.com's server, which most likely, the way it works now, they have some server space they're renting on a machine somewhere in the United States, most likely owned by Amazon or Google. Maybe Microsoft.
Who owns GoDaddy?
GoDaddy, here's the interesting thing about GoDaddy. GoDaddy does do a little bit of hosting. The majority of what they do is the domain names. So the domain names is different than hosting.
Okay.
And so we can talk about that in a second.
Sure.
But most of GoDaddy's hosting they are sub-hosting. So they just rented out a ton of space from another one of the big providers.
Okay.
And then they lease that off.
So these companies really are too big to fail at this point.
Kinda.
Yeah. It all relies on them.
Yeah. So the way domain names works, real quick. So we still all have those same addresses like the early days.
Yeah,
That's
IPs.
your IP address. What a domain name does is it makes an easier, more memorable name for these addresses for websites. But then most of the time there's all this encryption and stuff that hides that original IP address, so it's more secure. What GoDaddy's doing is they're that connection. They're that connection of your shoesandgumballs.com to your 192.246.
Right.
So you hit that data center, and there's just this big, huge place with lots and lots of rooms.
Is there a big table?
Where you can watch football illegally on a site called NFLforfree.net.
NFLforfreegumballs.com. That's my domain. NFLforfree.net.
Hold on.
NFLforfree.net's got to be taken.
NFLforfreegumballs.com is available.
Okay. What is NFLforfree.net?
NFLforfree.net is also available. A little bit more expensive, $1.25 a month.
Oh, I mean, we got it. Put it on your card. I mean,
we are racking up a huge domain bill.
Yeah, we got the Patreon supporters to cover it.
It's $1.34. We racked up that.
So if you're one of our patrons, know that at least 25% of your contribution goes to covering these domains, which you can find out more about Patreon at patreonforgumballs.com.
Oh my gosh, this is nuts.
Yeah. So basically, the internet works the way that data travel works the way that people travel works, in that
Kinda.
You get in an Uber.
Yeah.
You go.
But it's a physical thing. There's physical wires connecting all of it. It's
not my phone. There's not.
Okay, well, what you're doing is that's radio waves. It's the same thing. So the same thing with Wi-Fi and with phone signals. That's really interesting. Is it's working the same way.
It's doing the ones and twos.
It's doing the same way old dial-up was working.
Ones and zeros.
They were it's radio waves.
Yeah.
And so as it hits that frequency to your Wi-Fi router or to your cell tower, the same thing's happening. But then it's going to go down a wire to the same box in the middle of your city, the giant AT&T box. And then they're going to ship it off wherever you're supposed to
go. And that building with no windows is where our internet is. I just... That building behind the Dave Matthews bus, right there, with no windows.
That's where they keep the internet.
That's where they keep the internet. That's where they keep the internet. And Mr. Phone. Mr. Phone lives there.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to leave. There's no windows or
There's
doors.
no way to leave. He was born there. And he'll die there.
It's like Beauty and the Beast, but the Beast is Mr. Phone just running around this data center. Connecting cables.
I'll connect. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I haven't laughed this hard in an episode in a long time. Okay. So here's what happens next. Say you have users on shoesandgumballs.com from, I don't know, the UK.
Okay. There's cables across the...
There's cables that float across the water, underwater.
Not
they don't
float.
float. They sink to the bottom.
There's not the cables just... Oh, yeah, that's the internet.
So some guy said, hey, I want to talk to someone in the UK about my shoes and my gumballs.
Well, they've been able to make phone calls over there, though.
Yeah, so they had phone lines forever. But what we did is we sunk fiber lines.
Yeah.
And it's actually really cool if you watch it. Look it up on YouTube or something.
Are you saying this again?
Huh?
You said this already.
What?
On this podcast.
Shut up.
You have talked about... You have talked about...
No, I have not.
You have talked about... You've mentioned on the podcast. And
Tell
you
me,
even
what am I about to
said...
say? What am I about to say?
You said it's very cool to watch them lay the cable into the water. They're on a boat and they're just dropping the cable into the water. You have said this on this podcast. I love that we just got you on that. I live for this moment right now. Connor, you better, and I swear, you better
Connor,
go find that clip. Connor, put it in there.
Put it in.
It's about to
You
play some
did the
music in
other.
a second.
Do not do it.
Listener, you're about to hear some music, and then you're going to hear Tim say this exact same thing in an episode. I believe it was in the AT&T episode.
The way that works now is there's a giant fiber optic cable that's just stretching the planet through the oceans. It's actually really interesting to watch those ships lay that cable line because they have a giant spool that's just constantly just dropping it into the ocean, and it's huge, this line. You should really look it up. It's really interesting to watch them drop it. It's so satisfying. You really need to try it.
It's so satisfying.
Continue.
That makes me
It's
so
super
mad.
relaxing to watch. Remember, because I made fun of you. I made fun of you for being up at 2 a.m. watching videos of them laying cable, and your wife coming around the corner seeing a glow from your office, and she comes in and is like, "What's he watching?"
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, you remember that now. Yeah, what's it like? How's it feel?
I don't know. Ask yourself, because it happened to you like 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, this is fun. Anyway, go ahead.
So anyway, so they laid this fiber cable across the ocean, and it's really satisfying to watch them do it. But here's how this one works. This one's nuts. So
This one's crazy.
Instead of-
You're not going to believe it. The other one's sending information through. This one,
it's
sends
water.
information through. It's crazy.
No, so here's what they realized. They said, hey,
The waves aren't fast enough.
the waves, they don't go fast.
Because you have that.
To get them to go faster, they have to be a higher frequency, and eventually you're not going to be able to pick it up.
Sure.
And so they said, what if, instead of sending the waves
Vibrations.
through, what if they said, what if we shoot a laser?
Shut up.
And when the laser's on, that's a 1. And when the laser's off, that's a 0.
So now it's
So now they just flash a laser super fast. There's Mr. Laser.
Yeah.
He was like,
that's actually, and all of a sudden they caught all the catfish in the ocean. It was wild. They were straight on the cable because they were like lasers.
yeah, so that's exactly what's happening. In a fiber cable, it's just lasers, just on and off, flashing super fast.
Yeah. Okay. It's just lasers. You're not gonna believe this stuff, man. Okay, so they're using. I didn't know that. That's what they're using. Okay.
Yeah. So theoretically, if you set up the same sender and receiver across our office, we could do the internet.
Oh, interesting.
With lasers across our office. The issue is they're going to get blocked.
Yeah.
But in the fiber cables, nothing's going to get in the way.
Fiber cables. Yeah.
Nothing's going to get in the way.
That frequency was almost as high as the waves.
They're able to shoot these lasers across the ocean.
Yeah.
And get across.
They got a straight line across the ocean?
Well, they don't have a straight line, but it doesn't matter because the way the lasers in the fiber optic cables, they just ride the cable.
No, I don't think you know how. Yeah,
I don't think you know how cables work.
That was right.
No, it's right. It's 100% right. The fiber optics, the lasers ride a fiber optic. Have you seen those little? They're what are they called? You get them at like carnivals. They have fiber optic like. I don't know what they call them.
Oh, I see.
And they wave off, and the light follows them. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And here's the thing with fiber optic cables. They're really, 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 really small.
So you can
put a whole bunch of them in there. And that's the biggest problem with the internet is if you're shooting a laser, the receiver, what it's doing is it's receiving that on-off. And so as it's hitting that on and that off, it can only be receiving one of those at a time.
Right.
And so if you have a lot of traffic, you've got another set of lasers waiting behind that set of lasers.
Yeah.
And so what you need is more lanes, just like the highways. We need more lanes.
Or population control.
No, we need more lanes.
Oh, okay.
And going back to these packets, you're breaking them down to your bits. And so
Yes. What? You just quit talking, dude.
I'm just thinking back to
My Wife Hates My Bits. Yeah, I heard it too. Yeah. Surprised you remember that one.
What?
I'm surprised you remember that one.
So if you have 8 bits equals a byte, right? And so if you have a kilobyte, that's 1,000 bytes or 8,000 bits, which means that's 8,000 on-off flashes of a laser for a kilobyte. So if you have a gigabyte, you have 8 million flashes of that light, which is bonkers because most of the internet is dealing in gigabytes these days.
Right.
So every time you're streaming something, that's 3 or 4 gigabytes. So that is, what is that? 3 or 4 times 8, 32 million flashes of a laser just so you can watch Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And everybody else is sitting there waiting for your 32 million laser flashes to be able to watch their episode. Their episode.
Of Your Enthusiasm.
And so they needed more little fibers for traffic. The issue...
It is bonkers how fast my internet at the house is. Because at a certain point, of internet speed, like it's just kind of like, doesn't make a difference if it's... Like I got 1,000 up is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Or 1,000 down, actually. I'm only hitting like 600 with my Wi-Fi. Yeah. But still, it doesn't make a difference at that point.
And the reason for that, you might know this, but the reason for that is because you have one of those fiber lines going in to your house. And so it's bringing you 1,000 megabytes a second. And then that 1,000's coming in, but every device is taking pieces of that. And so then on your way out, you have one fiber line going out. Again, you can send 1,000 out, but everybody's trying to use that same pathway, if you will. So it's like, it really is like you have a road and there's traffic limitations. Yeah. And so theoretically, if everybody was trying to do too much at once, you would clog that. And so that's what happens.
Which is what happens when you're at like a sporting event.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you're at a sporting event and your phone doesn't work.
It's because there's too many people trying to connect down that same router.
It's a nightmare. When I was an Uber driver, it is a nightmare because people are trying to connect to get an Uber. And then also I'm trying to use data to pick someone up. I haven't Uber driven in 3 years, and it's because of this.
And there's only so much traffic that can go through it.
Right.
That's what I think. Honestly, this metaverse idea, that's one of the biggest things where I'm like, I don't know if we have the technology for it because there is literal physical limitations to the internet. Like it's easy to not think about it because like you don't think about the internet as being a physical thing, but it is a physical network. For every single person have
high-speed internet.
Yeah, the internet is a physical network of wires and machines.
That's infrastructure.
Yeah, and I just don't think we're at a point where everybody could be streaming high fidelity graphical, essentially video games that everybody can be in at once and it work. Like I just don't see a world, because in a video game, like that's why when you get on like Fortnite or Minecraft, like those games are huge games, but you'll notice the graphics are like an art style that's really cartoony. But the reason for that is because
primitive.
It lowers your triangle count, so you have less data you're transmitting.
Yeah,
and so you can get higher numbers.
I always thought, I was like, RuneScape's got some pretty primitive graphics here, you know?
Well, that's because nobody plays it.
Me and Mr. Phone do.
Hey, Mr. Phone, you want to play RuneScape again?
Yeah, we're going to cut some logs. We would do that for hours. No, I'm working on my mage.
Love TILLN Podcast and want to support the show? Well, you can support us by buying TILLN Podcast merch and wearing it out in the wild. We have tees, hoodies, shirts, and so much more in our merch store. We also have exclusive merch for every single episode, but those are limited, so make sure you get them while you can. Text TILLN to 66866 to support the show. Thank you so much. So I don't think our data.
Well, I think we will not be able to get to that point, maybe, but I don't know. Like, I mean, they're building infrastructure to do these kind of things.
They are.
This stuff is in city infrastructure plans.
Yeah. I don't think we're at the point right now.
Oh, I don't think so either.
Where we could do
but
what the
I'm
metaverse
also looking
is
at, like, it's
promising.
2021.
Yeah.
I mean, look at where we were in 2001.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
You were lucky if you were getting like a kilobyte down.
Yeah.
So
I was lucky if I wasn't getting hit by a car crossing the crosswalk. I was in first grade, you know? But like, yeah, business people needed it. I wasn't sending emails then.
I was.
I was lucky if my codes worked for Coke rewards.
Here's the thing though, you did kind of reference this earlier. The internet is a physical thing. It's easy to, because we call it the cloud, we call it the internet. Like the cloud, the cloud is a machine somewhere that you're accessing. And there are countries in the world that have, like say you're a country across the ocean. Pick an ocean.
Okay.
Ocean.
Yeah.
You're a country over there.
Say you could have said, say another country. You know, you could have been like, say you're another country. But you went, say you're, you couldn't think of one. You couldn't think of a single place. Let's say you're Belgium, right? And you couldn't think of a single country.
Belgium. I hate you for that. So I'm trying to remember what country it was. I want to say Ghana, but I don't know if that's right. There was a country in Africa that a few years ago, a boat was, boating on by underneath the Kinsey River, the Kinsey Bridge. No, they were dragging their anchor and they split one of these lines.
Oh.
And it was the only line connecting that country to the internet. So that country was out of internet. And the problem with this isn't the sort of thing where you can just like go and patch the cable. Like you have to lay a whole new line.
Yeah.
And it takes days to stretch this and repair something like this. And so they were without internet for 14 days, which to us is like, I mean, you're like, oh, well, you couldn't post on Facebook for 14 days. But you got to realize now, like everything is on the internet. Like you couldn't buy anything. You couldn't like swipe a credit card. Like hospitals didn't have access to all their data.
Do you think
you couldn't turn your lights on?
But I'm saying, like, you think when you go to the bank, that if let's say you got like $4,000 in your bank account, let's say you're rich, right? When you go, they don't have a shoebox with $4,000 cash.
4,000 gumballs.
The only way they know what money you have now is because they have internet.
Yeah, exactly. So if the internet's down, the bank doesn't know how much money you have. Nobody, literally, like the country was like shut down for 14 days. Like
that's what I'm saying. I mean, like
our world is so tied to the internet something happened to it, we're freaking screwed.
And my job is on the internet.
Everybody's job is on the internet now.
Everybody's job.
I mean, there's some people whose jobs is more on the internet than others, but everybody's job
But every job uses the internet.
relies on the internet.
Which is why I think
level.
it's going to be a public utility.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think it's too, because here's the thing.
But
it's
I think
too
it's
big of a thing.
Yeah, but I'm not saying they have to be the only provider. But I'm saying I think that the government has to, because everybody's job is somewhat related to the internet. I think that the government has to create an infrastructure where that is a utility, and if you live in an apartment, the apartment has to provide some kind of basic internet, the same way they have to provide access to water.
I could see that, because it is scary to think about, because like I said, Amazon with their AWS, they're the biggest one by far. They have like 70%.
Sure.
So if something were to happen to them, like literally so many websites would be catastrophically affected.
Shoesandgumballs.com would go down.
They'd be done. But no, for real, like most of the internet is on AWS. So if for some reason Amazon had some kind of data breach, or even like if Amazon someone there made a mistake accounting and screwed the company and it went out of business, then like all of those sites are at risk now. Theoretically, they're going to, definitely they would sell it all off.
And get bailed out. Yeah.
But I don't know. It does put you in the spot where you're like, well, what happens then? And so I don't know. It is a weird scenario having a couple private entities run most of the data in the world.
Yeah.
Mr. Phone, I need to talk to you.
Okay. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I think that it's got to be a public thing eventually.
It is very nerve-wracking. I would be surprised if the government, they wanted to get out of it, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I also think there is this, the internet's this, I don't know, there's this Wild West attitude at the internet. It's like, this is mine. Oh, you can do whatever I want here.
Yeah.
And I feel like if the government tried to take it, people would be like, no, you can't.
Again, I'm not saying they're going to take it. I'm saying that they would have to be an ISP.
A provider. Yeah. And I think people would have a problem with that. I think people would be like, oh no, you're going to spy on me or take my data. Because I think most people, and the kind of people who'd have a problem with that, don't understand that the internet is run by other companies or owned by other companies. I don't think they would. And so I think when they would hear that the government was trying to become an ISP, they'd be like, no, my data. It's my private information.
My data. All right.
So anyways.
Okay. Interesting.
That's the internet.
That's how it works.
So if you log on to shoesandgumballs.com.
Yeah.
And you got your lights traveling through the web, right?
You can see it's a MySpace page, and you can see our little playlist over the side.
Page. No, here's what's wild. You know how like at DIA when you're on the train and there's all those other tunnels that you pass, and you're like, I wonder who they keep down there.
I wonder who they keep down there. Mr. Phone?
Your data does the same thing. Your data's traveling down the internet, and it's like, I wonder who they keep down those other tunnels. And one day, your computer your data says, I'm going to find out. And it takes that hard left down into the dark corridors of the internet.
Yeah.
That's what they call the deep web, kids. And so you go into the dark internet.
Okay.
The dark net, the black web. I'm just trying to find more. Anyway, so you go, your data's streaming hard into the dark web.
Okay.
And as you get in there, the lighting gets dimmer. But it's colder. It's like it's dim.
Temperature change?
No, it's not colder. The light is colder. So it's like fluorescent lighting, but dim fluorescent lighting. It's kind of flickering, and and you hear the sounds, you hear the flashes, and there's this weird odor, like Dave Matthews Band.
Would you say it's offensive?
Yeah, it's offensive. offensive odor. You're going down these corridors.
Yeah.
And what's wild is from the .com boom, you start seeing all the dead internets. the other nets that didn't make it.
Okay.
You're passing by the bones of these websites, all their code mangled and everywhere. And you come around this bend. And what's wild, you come around this bend, and unlike all the other websites that you saw with the code lying everywhere, you come around this bend and there's just solo cups everywhere. And
full of celebrity souls.
And then you see him. The Lord of the Dark Web. The Dark
Mark
Web
Zuckerberg.
Lord. Armed with the Facebook fiddle.
Facebook fiddle?
A blue fiddle. And he says, I've been waiting for you.
What's the line he always says?
It's
There it is. You know exactly what I was talking about. Say it.
Ready? Sweet baby race.
Sweet baby Ray. That's what he calls you. Oh, man. Play a fiddle and pass us through the internet.
For watching Things I Learned Last Night. If you like this episode, you can watch more right here, or you can watch some highlights. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It helps us out a lot. Also, leave a comment below, and we'll see you next week.